Global institutions are being tested as rising geopolitical tensions force a rethink of how countries cooperate, trade and compete. The Commonwealth, a bloc of 56 nations, is positioning itself as a platform for economic coordination and cross-border opportunity in an increasingly fragmented world. Speaking to Channel's Business Global, Secretary-General Shirley Botchwey, who is approaching her first year in office, said the organisation must deliver more than dialogue, with a clear focus on unlocking tangible opportunities for businesses and young entrepreneurs across member states.
Nigeria is an invaluable member of the Commonwealth, one of the 10 top contributors to our technical fund. Nigeria is ascending in terms of development, in terms of its economy under President Tinubu's government. So this is the right time, and I'm happy that it's happening. And the Secretariat will take advantage, obviously, and see where we can continue to support Nigeria. Because for us, we've chosen 3 pillars for the next 5 years in our strategic plan. And one of the key pillars is building economic resilience and supporting our countries to make sure that trade and investment is enhanced. What do we do with our countries? How do we help them to ensure that they are investment ready to receive investments into the country? So this is, for me, probably a test case. Let me say that I've always been a big believer in the Commonwealth. That is a force for good. This is the only group, or one of the very few groups, that has the least in terms of population, in terms of economic strength and development, member states, as well as the biggest economies and countries with the largest populations, all sitting around the same table and building consensus. And for me, this is rare. It's something that you don't find in many organizations. But this is Commonwealth for you, Commonwealth of Nations for you. A country of 10,000, a country of 1.4 billion, all sit around the same table. G7 countries and countries that are so small. So for me, I think there's a lot that can be done. But my surprise, and this is a very positive one, was when I started work and realized that member states, big and small, all look up to the Commonwealth for support. And for me, this is great, because it means that the work that is done by the Secretariat is one that is very much appreciated by all member states. Now, and that is what fed into the priorities. Of course, when I was campaigning, even when I became, I had to engage countries. And in the engagement, countries said to me that we want the Commonwealth Secretariat to do less and have more impact. So don't be a jack of all trades. Just make sure that you concentrate on in a few areas and let us see the impact, which is what drove us into the new strategic plan for the next 5 years, and us choosing 3 areas. But this is not the Commonwealth Secretariat choosing, but working with member states to say that these are the 3 areas that we want you to concentrate on. Let's build democratic resilience in all our countries, because really that's the foundation. And that is what actually brings us all together. That's what started the Commonwealth, where we're supporting each other in building strong institutions, in making sure that democracy, good governance, human rights, the rule of law are at a stage that will project the countries into other areas. And the other areas, in my opinion, once you build that foundation, and that's reflected in the Charter of the Commonwealth, is where you can then expect economic resilience, where you're now looking at trade and investment, where you're now looking at building resilience in terms of making sure that countries at a point where they are not debt burdened, but that you're building climate vulnerabilities into debt treatment, into development finance, so that countries can have some latitude to pursue the things that would affect positively the development of their nations, like young people, like the issue of education, of job creation, and that's important. And making sure that we increase trade. Today, as we speak, we are looking by the end of this year to increase intra-Commonwealth trade to about 1 trillion. Already we are at over 900 billion. We need to be able to increase it. We all see what's happening around us, politically, where tariffs and trade is being weaponized. What do we do as a Commonwealth? I think we should start looking inward. We have 56 countries, 2.7 billion people, out of which 1.5 are young people, 60% under the age of 29. That's a serious resource that we need to tap into. And then, so that's the economic resilience pillar. And then we have the third pillar, which is climate resilience, because we all see what climate change is doing to our countries. We need to make sure that we prepare the countries in terms of adaptation, in terms of making sure that we mitigate climate change, the effects on our countries. And in doing so, we've come up with what we call the climate fund for renewable energy, where we are looking to build 500 million in terms of renewable energy, a fund for renewable energy. And this in itself will create jobs for young people, because there are businesses in there that we can take out of such a fund. And there's a Nigerian young man who won the Young Person of the Year in 2025, who has done a lot in the area of renewables, created solar panels and all of that. And he won the Commonwealth Young Person of the Year. And so people like this should be assisted. We are looking at a fund for an aspiration fund. The aspiration fund is looking at entrepreneurial skills. How do we make our 1.5 billion young people ready? Education is key. We need to make sure that they're educated. But when they are educated, they need jobs. We don't want them to be going through those perilous journeys across, and for Africa, across the Sahara, trying to across the Mediterranean, looking for greener pastures. We want them to stay in the countries and to be useful citizens. And that's really what they want. So we're looking at this aspiration fund of about 200 million, which will help them in building their entrepreneurial skills and also digital skills. Because you see, every smartphone in the hand of a young person is a potential business. And so how do we make sure that we raise these funds so that young people can access? So these are all things that we're trying to do. Building resilience generally, democratic resilience, economic resilience, and climate resilience. And in all these areas, young people, women, small island states, very important that the lens is on these people, is on these groups, because they are the ones who will make or break the Commonwealth if we don't do things right.
got a lot to do. It's a lot of work, but thank you for that concise overview, and please do keep us abreast of the aspirational prize as well, the fund. I'm sure our viewers will be interested in that. This is an historic appointment, as you know. A lot of us look up to you, we're inspired by you. You know, the rooms that you're in, it's not easy, and climbing the ladder can be tough. You are, of course, the first Black African woman to lead the Commonwealth. But if you can be a bit personal now, how do you reflect on the significance of that moment? You know, I'm sure there must be some times when you are standing, you know, with the King, for example, and you're like, oh my goodness, how did this happen?
It's a very interesting job, I must say. But I stand on the shoulders of all the former Secretary-Generals. And the immediate past was a woman, but she was from the Caribbean. And when I took office, I was fortunate enough to have a meeting with Chief Emeka Anyauku. Yes. And it just made me realize the importance of this job. But I don't see myself as a woman. But then at the same time also, it puts responsibilities on you. I don't want to use the word a burden. But I believe that in any endeavor, whether male or female, if you're passionate enough, and if you have the support, you will deliver. So I'm very focused on the vision, on the strategy, on the delivery plan, and I must deliver because I've come at a very opportune time. It's a difficult time. Look at what's happening all around us in the world. And multilateralism has taken a really big hit. The international rules-based order is no longer one that delivers for many countries, because now it's about the high and mighty and what they want and what they can do. And so this is an opportunity for the Commonwealth to look at ourselves and see, let's do it together. We have a unique organization. Let's make sure that we unlock opportunities for prosperity and make the wealth common, which is what we are called. And so those are the things that drive me as a person, taking advantage of all that's happening around us and turning it into an opportunity to build resilience and to deliver for me, the young people, to deliver for the 1.5 billion young people. Yeah.
Let's look back at last week. Now, Commonwealth Day's theme focused on unlocking opportunity and prosperity. You've spoken about some of the funds that you're working with. What were some of the highlights of last week? What kind of stood out for you? I was at the CIN event, which was brilliant and great. And there was a lot of impassioned, I'm sure you heard the minister, you know, talking about the past. But what other moments sort of stood out and are things that you can be proud of?
So let me say, first of all, for the very first time, we had a Foreign Affairs Ministers retreat. Mm-hmm. And the retreat looked at the current environment, international environment, and how the Commonwealth can take advantage. And around the table, every minister agreed that this was the Commonwealth's moment. Let's take advantage. And they endorsed our proposals. And those proposals are also going to go to the heads of government who will meet at the end, towards the end of the year in November. And so there's a resolve that Commonwealth must do more, and we are all in it together. And so for me, that was key. And then, of course, like I said, we talked about reforms that the Commonwealth needs to go through. And so this week, last week, during Commonwealth Week, that was very important. Also important was the investment network meeting that we had. Ministers spoke of what pertains and what the CRN can be doing for them, how they can benefit from it. And for every initiative, for me, it's about the smallest in terms of economies, in terms of population, in terms of development, because there are countries in the Commonwealth who sometimes describe themselves as dots on the map. So a country like that, with a small population, a small economy, if they go to big meetings, who's going to listen to them? How do they make that impact? How can they ensure that their issues are taken into consideration? It's the Commonwealth that can do that on their behalf. We support them. We make them ready in terms of investment, in terms of making sure that in negotiating contracts for the, we have countries with a lot of critical minerals, rare earths. In negotiating contracts with investors, how do we make sure that their interests, the communities, are taken into account? So we support them when we can. Even in debt management, we have a debt management unit that is helping countries. We've been able to help many Commonwealth countries and even non-Commonwealth countries in debt management. And so for me, conversations that we have or we've had this last week, whether it's with ministers, whether it's at the Commonwealth Investment Network, and the potential business and investments that can come out of these, I think is something that we all should be happy with. The important thing, however, is to do follow-ups and not leave it there. For me, this is very important. And then as we go along, as we are monitoring, we know that out of this initiative, this is what we've achieved. This is how many countries that are better as a result of this initiative, that initiative. And so it's the tangible deliverables. That is something that we always must ensure that we have our eyes on, our focus on.
Yeah. Yes. What is the Commonwealth advantage to you?
So the Commonwealth advantage is about how we are far ahead of any other non-Commonwealth country in terms of trade. And it's been quantified to be 21%. So when we come together, whether it's the little elements that we incorporate in terms of trade, elements that, fortunately for us, you have the African Continental Free Trade Area that has started. Yeah. You have bilateral trade agreements, free trade area agreements. And the UK has several with countries. Yeah. Australia has several with countries. You have PESA Plus in the Pacific. You have a Caribbean version of it. So you're taking elements from all of these and to ensure that we make trade easier. But because of our shared language, because of our shared legal systems, there's a lot that we share together. Already, we are 21% ahead. Yeah. When a Commonwealth country decides to trade with another Commonwealth country. So it makes it a lot easier than when it's not a Commonwealth country. And what I am looking at is probably not a free trade area for the moment, but we take elements from all these free trade area agreements that exist, so we can standardize customs documents, we can harmonize standards, little wins that will get us to a point where it will be so obvious that we've reached the point where the Commonwealth countries can enter into a free trade area. And that's what I'm looking at. For me, this is the Commonwealth trade advantage. And it's powerful because it's only trade that will build and develop any country. It's good to have development assistance, but that will never develop any country. It's about trade, it's about investment. And that's where I think we should concentrate on. But of course, you need to have a sound democracy in terms of systems that are working, people are happy, young people are hopeful in the future, the women are engaged, are not left behind. So the people living with disabilities are included. So it's a matter of not leaving anyone behind in order for us to achieve and move forward as a Commonwealth.
Looking ahead, your vision, I suppose we had that impassioned minister, didn't we, talking about the fact that it was Britain that colonised them and they're going through all this stuff. There is still that stain, I think, a little bit. And of course, you know, being the first African woman, it's not a burden, but there's a lot of responsibility. Is the Commonwealth changing? Is the face changing? Is the look changing? Is the style changing? Or does it remain the same? I just want you to spell out your vision and beyond you also.
You talked about the stain. That's the past. Yeah. So what are we doing with the present and the future? Yes. The past is the past. There's absolutely nothing that we can do about it. But we can move into the future as a people who are determined to probably use the past for a better future. And I think that's where we are. Earlier on, I spoke about the fact that when countries sit around the table, whether at senior officials level or ministerial or the board, which is made up of high commissioners or ministers or heads of government, they sit as equals. And that is the beauty of it, where the largest democracy, the biggest economies, you have G7 members, you have G20 members. Within the Commonwealth, you have the smallest, a population of 10,000, 17,000. They all sit as equals. Each one has one vote. And that is the beauty of it. And so I think countries and heads have decided that the past is the past, but let's look at what we can do together. And for me, I like the Bridgetown initiative, because that initiative is looking at how do we factor in our vulnerabilities as countries into making sure that we build resilience, into debt management, and debt treatment. I've talked about it already, but it's so key because many of the small countries, the developing countries, this is one of the areas that have become a difficult space to overcome. The huge debts that they are grappling with, especially in this environment. How do we make sure that development finance is fair to all the countries and not just to some? So for me, these are the issues that plague us today, and we need to make sure that we are fair, we need to make sure that we are intentional where our countries are, the issues come into play, especially the issues of young people. Because it can be a burden if you're not intentional where young people are concerned. And so you have to be very, very intentional. And that's where we have to support the countries to make sure that education, even to the remotest parts of the Commonwealth, education goes there, whether it's through distance learning, making sure that they all have access to digital skills, that they have jobs. These are all things that are so important, so urgent, that yes, we'll deal with the past. We can't deal with the past, but let's look at what is happening at the moment and let's deal with it. Because you'd find, looking at what has happened in some countries, that young people are becoming restless and they're losing faith in institutions and in politicians, that they are not delivering for us. And so for us, we need to support our countries to make sure that we deliver for the young people. They're not asking for much. They're asking for inclusivity. Include us in decision making. Because our voices have to be heard. If we keep saying that they are the future, why are we excluding them? If we're saying that in many countries, in Africa, for instance, women constitute 51% of the population, why are we leaving them out? So these are the issues that have to be dealt with. If we're saying that in the 2.7 billion Commonwealth, over 400 million live with disabilities, why are we leaving them out? We have to be intentional to make sure that we leave no one behind. And so there's a lot of work to be done. Our countries need to get on with it. And so, yes, the past is important, but there's a lot of work that countries need to get on with in order that they provide and do not disappoint any group of persons.